All levels class. Oh, here we go. Now it's in progress. Good morning. So pull up the yoga mat, find your props that you like to use, your blankets, your blocks as you wish, and let's begin our midwinter practice. These days I'm starting in my cobbler's pose. It just feels more balanced that way. Finding your breathing, maybe holding your ankles, maybe holding your toes, allowing all of the midwinter energies to settle. Noticing if you prefer to keep a soft gaze over tip of nose, or if it works better for you to close eyes. Noticing anything below you, anything your body is touching base with, rooting and grounding through that first chakra energy. As we're reminded in midwinter, the roots are quite busy as our snowdrops are pushing up through the ground, and the crocus will be on the way, and the eagle's nest is quite busy with 2 eggs in the nearby nest, and maybe your butterfly wings will start to flap a bit, even though it's too soon for our butterfly friends to be here. Just awakening, remembering that all is in the works for what's to come, that it's still a good time for resting and peacefulness when we can find it with our coziness at this midwinter mark. And then maybe you'll slide your feet forward and create even more of a diamond shape if you like. Sometimes it works for me to stay quite extended here, and other times I like to prop up a bit. So you choose. Maybe you'll go inside your so-called turtle shell with your hands underneath your legs, so in the middle and under, or maybe you prefer to prop up a little or even more. And while you do that, I realize I do not have my timekeeper with me, so I'm going to just scooch over and get it so that I don't keep you here for too long. Here it is. Finding your way into Karmasana, your turtle shell, or some call this Tarasana, the star of Tara. Last night I was so happy when I realized I was seeing moonlight reflected on the back porch floor, and quickly then gazed up to see almost half moon, Metza Luna, right? Oh my goodness, it's been a while since we've seen the moon and the sun. And so as you're there, maybe your navel center will pull in and up a bit. Maybe your head and heart will release a bit. Finding your breathing. Noticing your breathing if possible. And maybe for a moment taking into consideration what I like to think of as the ancient yogis, those turtles, and how they instinctually seem to know how to control their breath so that they can slow down really, truly through the season. Where are they right now? The turtles in New Jersey land seem to be under the water in the mud and the murk. I'm not quite sure it's called hibernating, but for sure their bodies have completely changed to survive this season. And it seems to be they know how to slow their breathing down so much. All of their systems know how to transform into something very different than what we see in spring, summer, and fall. Taking cues from nature as possible. And perhaps modern life doesn't allow for us to be completely in turtle mode, but maybe we have moments of it. And then as you're ready, your head and your heart lift and maybe walking. What do those turtles have? Some of them have claws, some of them have flippers. Walking that apparatus a little closer so you can lift up and remember to find your midwinter bloom. And one of my favorite quotes from Thich Nhat Hanh, our lovely mindfulness teacher, no mud, no lotus. And for sure, we get lots of mud in New Jersey these days. Plenty of places to place and grow our roots. For without our roots, we would just be washed away by all of the water. So the lotus flower needs a place to reach down into the depths of the mud. And for some of us with texture, we say, ooh, no. But for others of us, we know mud might be kind of good for our skin, right? There's even places where people go to cover their entire bodies with what comes from earth. And then releasing one leg and giving this hip a rock. So you could hold your knee and your heel. And sometimes it feels good to have more space with this. And other times we hug in a little more and rock. And if you venture to children's yoga or family yoga, we'll rock our baby here. And then, you could hold your big toe. Sometimes I feel like I might pull my big toe off, so I hold inner edge of foot. And the other hand, put root and ground somewhere so you feel sturdy and connected. And just notice what your feet are up to. Sometimes our feet really help us activate our legs, and it's all connected, right? So we're rooting and grounding through our own root system. And now the invitation is to cross the middle of your body. And when we do that, we know that we're making new connections in our brain. And it really wasn't that long ago, you may have heard me say before, that we didn't know this was even a possibility for adults. Maybe there were a couple of miraculous stories here and there, for we humans are miraculous when we let ourselves be. However, now we know neuroplasticity is a real thing. So we thought just children's, not just, but children's brains could change. And thank goodness they do. But our brains can as well. And when we cross the midline, we encourage that. Maybe you'll exhale through the mouth. Bringing the knee back. Perhaps you'll make your midwinter phone call. And then if you like, I'm going to remove some layers now that we're warmed up. It's a wonderful thing that we can warm our own bodies. You might like a couple of blocks nearby, and the foot that was just crossing the midline might be held by the opposite hand, is how it works for me. And the back of the knee could hook the back of the arm if that works for you. So I have this arm basically pointing out to the side of it, as long as your shoulder is in agreement. That's how it works for me. And then your palms could press down, and you might practice a lift. So our arm balance also reminds us that our center space needs to be involved. So you might use the mat. You might find the blocks, see what works. You could point your toes, you could flex your feet and see if that helps. And of course, you might start lifting the other foot, starting maybe with just a hop, or maybe having your seat and lifting the other foot, almost like you're in a half boat pose, just to get used to the idea of possibilities. What is possible at this midwinter mark where the waning half moon is on the way? And of course, you could practice crossing ankles from your seat and stay seated, or maybe sometimes it makes more sense for me to do it all in one fell swoop. Oh, my hand's not balanced on the block. Let me reset my foundation, right? We want a strong foundation for our posture, just like we want a strong foundation for our house, and then we become the sage with 8 bends in her body and some lip stuff in her pocket. And we'll undo and come back to center space and give it a good shake out and maybe wash away anything, let's see, that happened since the first new moon of 2024. Maybe anything that happened since the first full moon of 2024, and know that we can always begin again. If that suits you, maybe you're not wanting to wash away. Maybe you're wanting to hang on. We humans have all different phases and stages we go through. So this is a bit of Qigong, washing away anything that's not serving us. And again, sometimes we cling and we hang on and we don't even know it because we're so accustomed to doing us until we say, I don't know if I need to do this anymore. And then we make change. And so releasing anything that may be in the way of perhaps even a tiny bit of change that you're welcoming this midwinter mark. And remembering, some even see the hair as antenna. So maybe you'll even take a moment to wash away with the hair. That is, I won't claim to know all the many reasons hair is covered, but in the Kundalini school, often hair is covered as a protection, as a rooting, as a grounding. And then tapping in when you feel washed away. I like to use my fingertips all over my winter scalp that's in need of some oil. I think a lovely Ayurvedic treatment, and I'm sure other ways that call themselves something different have this idea too, is to actually massage the oil of your choice into your scalp. And if you can, sit with it for even just a little bit before you go into the shower or the bath and wash it off. And I notice when I do take the time to do this Ayurvedic technique, and then you might move to your palms tapping in, I'm much calmer the entire day. And so I find, I think there's an almond oil that's unscented that works for me. You might like the scent. And there are a variety of oils. There's apricot oil, jojoba oil, olive oil, right? Sesame oil. And if we're going to dig deeper, we would even find, tapping into your seed if you haven't already, we would find the oil that suits the way we're made up. So Ayurvedically speaking, we find that there might be times of year where we're more air. It has to do with elements, right? We might find maybe using your fists and knuckles to tap into your low back area, so all those cleaning out organs receive attention. We might find we're more earthy at certain times. We might find we're more fiery at certain times. So that's the pitta, the fiery, and the vata, the airy, and the kapha, the earthy. I often find myself craving the earthy because I can quickly be fiery or airy. And so that hat helps me in my airier moments, and it protects my ears, especially when the so-called March winds come. Let's find a moment in seated stack pose. Your hands could press down or up, just extending, maybe circling, pointing, flexing the feet a little. We tend to kind of crouch into our stage with 8 bends in body posture. And then let's bring the other foot in and see what will happen on this side, knowing that sometimes one side is different than the other. And I think it's my pitta part, my fiery part, that judges that side. And then I think, well, wait a moment, if I tend to be dominant on one side, wouldn't it just make sense, excuse me, that one side's a little different than the other? And then if we're driving, one foot is doing kind of some repetitive motion, and then that goes up to the knee and maybe even the hip. So maybe it sounds silly, but it helps me feel more balanced when I recognize these moments, and then I can say, oh, all right, let me get this hip back in place, even in my car seat. Some of us spend a lot of time there, right? Hugging in, or when I'm in my furniture, if I'm not seated on the ground, which you can be if you have a floor couch and cushions, right? No one says you have to be up in the furniture. But if you are, maybe taking a moment to notice where your feet are and really being able to press down through your feet can make a big difference in your seat. And I know I'm sometimes one foot down and one foot up, and or both feet underneath my seat. And some of that is yoga too. And then finding your big toe or the inner edge of foot. And once again, the other hand presses somewhere to find the crossing of the midline, giving the brain some good attention here, and finding our breathing. Maybe an exhale through the mouth. Bringing this knee back, maybe making your second midwinter phone call, where the question for a while was, will there be 3 eggs in the eagle's nest? But we're pretty sure we passed that mark. At least we humans like to think we know. And that there will be 2 eggs this year. Duke Farms Eagle Cam is a fun, for me anyway, camera to turn into to see what the eagle parents are up to and how they're tending to the nest. It was lots of fun to see them fluffing up right before the eggs arrived. They got very busy there for a while. Maybe you're activating the feet as you lift the seat. The other hand, well, both hands can help you adjust the leg near the upper arm if possible. And remembering this middle section engaging to help you lift. Maybe you'll lift both feet. I like the blocks. For me, they add a bit of fun to the sage with 8 bends in her body. And then playing with it. Maybe it's a hop you're giving yourself. Maybe you're finding more of a half boat pose and practicing lifting the extended leg to know it's a possibility to lift up. Engaging all the parts that need to wake up at this midwinter mark, maybe crossing the ankles. And on this side, sometimes I find the blocks help me. I can lean a little bit because this side's a little more challenging for me. Whew. And then releasing. And if you're having fun with it, please keep at it. Don't let me stop you from practicing, right? When children are learning, little children in particular, and they're having fun, they're playing, they say again, they want to repeat. That's how we learn, right? Repetition. And then maybe your wrists need some circling after all of that pressing. Reaching in one direction, maybe coming back in the other. And from our sage with 8 bends in the body, let's move into seated sage. So you might like a blanket or towel under your seat. You might like blocks nearby the knees. Give yourself a moment to settle into seated sage. It can be a big release well, for me anyway, I definitely feel knees and hips waking up when I sit this way. And one hip might automatically be lifted. There's no need to force it down. However, we might invite it a little bit up and then a little bit down. And if it feels just right for you to press down, go for it. Finding your breathing. And of course you can stay still here if the movement isn't just right. Good for us to remember all the parts connected in a world where so much has been separated, right? If we need help about one thing, we go to a specialist, whether it be our body or our computer or our phone. And we can see how, well, it can be helpful to have a specialist. But then we get back to this body and we need to remember it's a whole thing we have here, a whole being, holistic. And this practice is holistic in the way it attempts to encourage our bodies and our minds and our breathing. And some of us also for sure feel that it encourages our spirit or our soul or our power, or maybe you have a word that works for you for that area of your life. If you do, if not, no worries. And then once you settle a bit, extending, and we'll bring the upper body to the knee that has the foot in front of you, and we'll bow over. And you can prop your blocks. Please remember, blocks have 1, 2, 3 different levels. You don't have to prop, but it's always an option. Sometimes my neck really likes when I hold my head this way. And of course, you might be ready to just move right on down toward earth. And your position with earth could be very grounded, your head and heart releasing, or you might do the good old claw of the fingertips and cups of the palms and lift of the elbows. You're always welcome to support the forehead. And then as you feel complete and ready, lifting head and heart, and we'll walk the fingertips as it suits you from one side to the other. Moving a little lower if you like, or staying up a little higher, adding a bit of a twist or a bit more of a twist. And next time you arrive on the side where you bowed, you might stay a moment or 2 or 3, lifting your hips. Or not, maybe you'll just work with the extension of the arm. And then releasing the seat when you feel complete. We'll take it to the other side for seated sage, and just giving yourself a moment to settle in as best you're able. What works over here on this side? Do you want to stay still, rooted and grounded in your seat? I love in the winter mornings when I'm not under my warm blankets to find my meditative seat and gaze at those clouds. And so often we have in our mind what meditation has to look like or feel like or be like, because we've been taught to measure, to succeed, to do well on the report card. And it's such a different game than that. in order for us all to figure out how it works for us. So for me, sometimes closing the eyes for sure gives me that turning inward feeling. But other times I like to gaze to the tree branches that maybe at this midwinter mark have teeny tiny buds starting to form on the ends. And maybe we notice the colors changing. See lots of reds and purples. Or I like to look at those wintertime clouds, which are so very different than the other clouds in the other seasons. The winter sky can be so dramatic. So, having a feeling of awe, even in little old New Jersey. Lifting and lowering that side hip as you wish, and then settling when you're ready. Finding space, bringing your upper body toward the knee that has the foot in front, and releasing on this side as it suits you. Will it be a block or a blanket? Excuse me as I adjust my things, or will it be a way to support your chin, letting the neck have something different for a moment? Or are you finding your way to the earth, connecting with her? Lifting head and heart, starting to claw your fingertips when it suits you. If you're just wanting to hang out where you are, please give yourself permission and time to do that. And making our way from side to side when you're ready. Moving a little lower, moving a little higher, adding the twist that suits you. As so often, I notice this changes for me. For a while, I only wanted a little bit of a twist, and I wanted my spine to be very extended, and then it's changed, and the releasing toward the earth feels good, and the twisting feels just right. So if possible, allowing the changes in our practice to guide us in the changes in the place we call life or world. For sure, they keep on coming. And next time you arrive to the side where you bowed, you might settle through that back hand, lift your hips, maybe extend your arms. Releasing your seat. And if you don't mind, let's make our way onto the heels if that works for you. So for some of us, it will be seated on the heels. For others of us, it will be a block. And you choose. It could be a block horizontal or vertical between I like just between I guess it's kind of midfoot and ankle. And of course you can add a blanket. Sometimes a blanket over my heels feels just right too. So just the boosting up can create a little more space for the parts that are accustomed to being pressed together so much, perhaps. And we'll find a bit of our seated cat and cow. So I've been taught this two different ways. You could keep your chin very still and work with the rest of your spine here. So you're moving, if possible, from your sacral area to your low back, to your mid back, to your upper back, right? So sacral, which also has vertebrae, then your lumbar low, then your mid thoracic, and I'm just holding my chin to remember to keep my gaze forward, and then your upper cervical. I need to adjust my seat a bit, which I hope you'll feel free to do if you need to. And finding the pace that works for you. So often my experience with the various schools of yoga is that folks are quite dedicated to their teachers and their teachers' teaching, which I respect for sure. And as of late, my latest trauma-informed training really brought it home that the practice needs to suit us. So I think it's wonderful we have all these options, but in order to really start listening to our own bodies, well, that's up to you, the practitioner, right? On your mat. I can offer you options, but I don't know exactly what's going on in your body. I can get a feel for it. So it's up to you, really. And for some of us, that can be like a strange thing because we're so accustomed to being told what to do. So maybe venturing into the place of welcoming that idea that we have space to take care of ourselves here and to find the pace that works for us. So back to in this teaching, I was taught to go very fast and to breathe very fast, which can be fun sometimes and energizing, but other times it feels just right to slow it down. Remembering the midsection, the navel center can activate a bit, and that way the back body can feel supported. My mouth is closed if possible, and I'm breathing through my nose. So it's a bit like breath of fire. Being center, finding your breathing, your extension. Perhaps the arms reach out away from you, and then the hands find their way to the shoulders, or some of us prefer to make fists so there's less pressure on the wrist. Taking it from one side to the other, finding the twist that suits you. Finding your breathing. Finding the pace that suits you as well. Coming center, releasing hands, finding your breathing and starting to roll the shoulders as you wish. Just preparing the shoulders to move with us a bit. Noticing if you have a preference, not because it's a good, better, or best, but because we may just need to move in a certain direction. Maybe switching it and moving forward, maybe switching it and moving backward, and noticing what suits you this morning. And of course, you could lift more quickly and lower more quickly as you wish. Inhaling up, exhaling down, finding your breathing. Releasing your breath, finding your breathing, inviting the Kali Mudra into play. Some call it temple or steeple mudra, where the fingers interlace, the forefingers point, and the thumbs stack as you wish. Elbows, hands could come in front of you if that feels better for your shoulders, or the hands could come up overhead, and just finding your center space. Sometimes we automatically go into back bend. Sometimes we automatically go into more of the cat spine. Noticing if there's a place in between to be. And then the invitation is to recite Sat, S-A-T, on the inhale, Nam, N-A-M, on the exhale. And the translation is I am, and I welcome you to use any of your languages that work for you. On the Sat, the first sound, we're doing a little pull in and up, and then on the Nam, we go a little softer. Finding your breathing as you wish. I like to start after an exhale. Sat, Nam, 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 Sat, Nam. I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. We are, we are, we are, we are, we are. Slow, steady inhale. If possible, pausing the breath as you engage the muscles at your seat, your root lock, pulling in and up as if you needed the restroom and there was none to be found, not even a tree to hide behind, imagining the heat moving up behind the back of your heart, out through the crown of your head, releasing your breathing, your mudra, your gesture, your lock. And if you like, we'll move into child's pose or puppy dog. And then you could re-engage the mudra, or you can slide right into it. I need to adjust myself a bit. And of course, if you'd like a bit of blanket under your knees, you can set that up now. Sometimes that cushion is just nice to have with us. And so child's pose for me with the mudra would be the knees apart, but you might like knees together. And typically we say big toes touching. And if it works better for you to have the seat up, then the knees probably would come in and under your hips and the toes would tuck for a puppy dog. And so this pose, according to the Kundalini school, is referred to as Guru Purnam, if I'm remembering it correctly. And you may have heard me share the story of folks going on a journey to find their guru, you know, hiking many miles, climbing many mountains, walking many stairs to finally find this person at the top of the mountain or in the cave, only to be told to turn around and take this pose for seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months on end, to finally, at the end of holding the posture, find that the answer they were seeking was in them, within them, all along. Making your way forward to table, and let's invite the hands you see, excuse me, under your shoulders or a little bit in front of. You'll notice maybe if you have a preference for your wrists, the toes could tuck under or the tops of feet could settle down. And then your head might act as if it's looking over one shoulder toward one hip, and your hip
might act as if it's coming toward that shoulder. So again, engaging the front body so your back body knows you've got it. As often as we want to know and feel that others have our backs, it's really important for us to have our own back. And of course, this is one of the postures that if it just suits you better, one half of the body could move, maybe just the hips, or maybe just the head and neck. Allowing ourselves to play with our options. Allowing ourselves to move, if possible, out of the good, better, best setup, at least for our time on our mat. But what I find is, the more I practice various situations on the mat, the easier it is to imagine them in that place called life or world. And so it's as if we're kind of stirring up what we need to bring with us. And the next time you come center, we'll walk the hands in front of shoulders. You might change your feet if that feels all right, and we'll bring the hips back toward one heel and then over to the other, and the shoulders up near one wrist and over to the other. Finding your breathing. Creating your circles. Rounding out the edges. Knowing, acknowledging the edges and the purpose they serve, and then perhaps remembering that it's okay to be gentle. In fact, perhaps it helps us tap into the divine feminine when it feels like so much has been focused on masculine and not always divine. So perhaps as we stir up that balance, we inspire the divine masculine as well. We need them both, and they can be inclusive no matter what gender we are or we find ourselves to be. The idea that there are different energies and they create balance. And that's what this practice is about. Finding balance within, and then encouraging that balance without, reversing your circles as you wish, remembering that perhaps we are waning and waxing creatures as well. If that moon can affect an entire ocean, and why wouldn't it affect us? And perhaps we can release some of the stories we've been taught and fed, that maybe Luna is actually a beautiful thing. Maybe growing more in touch with our emotions helps us figure out this human existence rather than pressing our emotions away. That's what moon represents, the emotional body. We have emotions. We're humans. We have feelings. And if we don't move, the feelings tend to get stuck. So when we move, we give the feelings permission to move as well. Next time you come center, maybe you'll find your blocks if your wrists are looking for a little something different. Sometimes they're just fun for me to work with. I like to spread my fingers wide and even have my pinky finger grab the outer edge and thumb inner edge. And let's press one foot back. Maybe you'll even press into your tippy toes for a moment, and then the padding of the toes. And then lifting that foot up, noticing if your hip likes to open to the side. Is it possible to invite the hip to face the floor, as long as that doesn't hurt? And then circling your foot a bit, and in the other direction. And then maybe bringing this knee forward and circling the knee a bit. In one direction, and then in the other. And now, if it's all right, let's bring this knee underneath us and actually keep it there, creating more of a cat-like spine, finding your breathing, and then stepping forward. The blocks, of course, have a few options. You could circle with one arm. You might like to be particular about where your knee is compared to your heel. Sometimes that just helps. The alignment can help the knee feel stronger. And I know sometimes my knee goes in, especially my driving knee. So bringing my knee in line with my hip. And then there are times when the alignment cues really suit me, and other times when I need to play with what makes more sense. Reversing your circles if you like. Bringing this hand down, let's circle the other arm. Finding your breathing. Reversing your circles. Releasing the hand, and since we're here, let's just see if this makes sense. Will it make sense for your foot to come a little further forward and make space for a pigeon pose? If it doesn't make sense, grab your towels, grab your blankets, grab your books or your blocks, whichever you have, and prop this front hip up. So for me, if I keep my upper body up, right now the phase I'm in is inviting. I don't know if you can see this front foot wants to move further. So I might even lean a little bit to make space for that to happen. And actually getting my heel in line with my knee feels pretty good. I want to be propped up. You may not want to, and I'm getting a low power mode. So I'm going to pop up and get us into that mode so I don't lose you. Now, if you're happy to move into your forearm territory, please do. This is just me switching modes here. Usually I have a little bit of time when I get this note. Okay, here we are back. And finding your breathing. And if pigeon pose just is not for you today, perhaps you're going to come into your seated sage again, where your back leg moves more into a zigzag, I like to call it. Now, of course, your heel might want to be close to your front hip. And eventually, I find I want to switch things up, but you may want to be exactly where you are. So for me, the tendency is to lean into one hip. I'm going to methodically play with it and notice if I can bring my hips into alignment, maybe remove this block and see what happens. So I'm not all the way down on the floor. You might, but this is where I feel balance, which is actually pretty active. Often when I've come into pigeon pose in the past, I've kind of just gotten into it. And I could go there, but for me, if I pull in and up a bit, I can strengthen. And that's what I need right now. And then pressing down, lifting up when you're ready. Let's take it back to a child's pose, a puppy dog, or a down dog, as you wish. Walking it out. I'm just going to plug the phone in for a moment. Sorry for the distraction. And you can be in your child's pose, in your puppy dog, in your down dog as you wish. Maybe you're switching positions, or maybe you're quite content to be in one position. Okay, here comes the plug, a little bit of sound. And then hopefully we're good to go. I may have adjusted the screen a little bit. Okay. And then from your down dog or your table pose, let's find what we did before, lifting the other foot up. So you're a half table or half dog, noticing if that hip wants to open up a bit, or is it possible to bring your hips to face the floor? And if you're in down dog, you might work with energy moving through your heels a bit. If you're in table, you might press those tippy toes back for a moment, releasing the calves. And then bending the knee and circling on that side. And your circles can move forward or backward, finding your breathing. And finally, the knee moves underneath you, and we'll keep the knee there as we work with a cat-like spine, rounding a bit, pulling in and up a bit, continuing to breathe, and then stepping forward as you wish. Let's give the arms some time to just circle again, and noticing where your heel is compared to your knee and where your knee is compared to your hip might feel like something really good to pay attention to. You might just be moving into the place that suits you. So sometimes the alignment cues are very helpful to me, and other times I need to release them a bit so I'm not overly concerned about them. And we each really have to find what works for us. For me, it's comforting to know I have choices. When we have choices, we feel safe, right? When we have choices, we feel included. And in order to feel safe, we need to feel included. And then switching sides, and that boils down to having bodily autonomy, right? When each of us is in charge of our own bodies. And then reversing the circles. And let's see what happens on this side for the little pigeon pose. So you might be saying, hang on a second, I need lots of props. That's fine, grab them. No hurries, no worries. Let's see, I think this foot just wants to move on out to the side. And yeah, I'm gonna bring a block under my seat. You might prefer to have blankets, and it's a little easier to see on this side. I'm going to wiggle this front foot out, which sometimes just gives me a little more space to work with. And actually the block can work nice with pressure points. And you might wish that you had 3 or 4 blocks so that you could lift both hands up equally, grab books if you'd like. And you might be staying extended. Sometimes we play with the back toes tucking or top of foot down. And even if top of foot is down, as long as your foot isn't cramping, you could press into top of foot or toenails and activate the leg a little more. And when I do that, this leg, which sometimes think it doesn't have to work when it's here, can grow involved. And I can do a little evening out of my hips rather than sinking to that one side. And finding a place where maybe I'll move forward, maybe not. And you might be moving all the way down to the ground, or you might be staying up a little higher. You might find that, again, you want to rest your chin somewhere. I only have 1 block, so it's a little wobbly. If I had 2 here, I would probably wobble less, or I could change the level of the block. Sometimes I even bring my thumbs to that 6th chakra area, place of maybe where pituitary and the pineal or pineal gland work together to encourage trusting ourselves, our intuition, our inner guide, our wisdom. And of course, your foot might want to be much closer to your hip. And if you're not propped up, your heel might even start pressing into kind of the inner edge of your hip bone, which seems like it's meant to give part of our digestive system, the intestinal area, a little massage there. And then when you feel complete, let's move on back to child's pose, puppy dog, or down dog once again. If you're in the down dog, you might like to walk it out a little, where you're bending one knee and then the other, lifting one heel and then maybe pressing through one heel and then the other if that works for you. You could even take a moment and press both heels toward the mat. No need to force them. You could imagine releasing your hips toward the wall behind you and notice how that may make space for your hands, your arms, your shoulders, your neck, and your spine. Perhaps moving to a turbo dog where if you'd like, you can gaze to the knees as you lift heels, bend knees, point tail, gaze to thumbs, give elbows a tiny bend and a little squeeze in. And then gently bringing the knees down to the mat. Let's take a moment to release our wrists. Perhaps you'll press into tops of hands. You don't have to use your blocks, you could, and you can fit however you'd like. Or maybe you prefer to turn the hands around and have the fingers reaching away from you. You could also do this at the wall if you were standing. Let's find a seated crescent moon where arms reach up overhead. And I like middle finger and thumb clasping the wrist, gazing forward to invite neck to be neutral, and then coming center and finding our way to the other side, waxing and waning, creatures with the moon. And then coming center. Maybe you'll make fists with the hands and let the knuckles rub briskly is the suggestion from the acupressure folks. To the low back, I like to give the back of the hips, top of the glutes, the sacral area even a bit of attention too. And then releasing to your seat, finding your way on down to the mat. Perhaps you'll bring your blocks and blanket and layers nearby so they're there for you. Maybe your knees will bend and feet will find top of mat. Of course, be sure you have safe space behind you, and you're welcome to come down one hand at a time, one arm at a time, or maybe one vertebra at a time. And once you find your connection with earth again, hands and arms can be wherever they feel best. Perhaps you'll take a moment with knees bent, just feeling the hips settle down, just in case one has a tendency to move one way or the other. And if you like, we'll take a supported bridge or shoulder stand. So you could lift your hips when you like and place a block or a roll of towel or blanket under there. And of course, if you are a shoulder stand practitioner, by all means, go into your shoulder stand. Just know that you have options. So I'll start here. The feet can flex, the toes can point. Maybe you want to circle those ankles. Again, the circling of our jointed areas is really nice for the variety of sensations we tend to store there. And if you want to go into shoulder stand, you might bring your feet overhead and give your hips a little boost. Of course, you could do this at the wall and press your feet into the wall. You might flex and point the feet again, finding your breathing. You can come back down if you find that your breathing just isn't there when you lift up. It can feel a bit constricted, right? We're really doing something different with our body in shoulder stand. So come on down and perhaps lift your legs one at a time or two at a time, block or not, up to you under your seat. Or you could bend your knees and invite the knees closer to the forehead. You could even bring the knees closer to your ears. Your toes might touch down behind you. Maybe you'll find a plank pose. Oh, sorry, that would be a plow pose, the other PL word. I believe in Sanskrit it's halasana, but I'll have to double check. And then maybe gently rolling out, remembering if your block is there so that you can be caught by your block, and maybe gently coming into your bridge pose, supported or not, up to you. Sometimes that block underneath us is just right. And other times we like to lift up, finding your breathing. And as you come down, you can keep the block there if the supported bridge feels just right to you, or you could roll down, move the block and roll down from your upper back to your middle back, maybe even scooping your tailbone and finally bringing that lowest part of your spine, your sacral area down. Some people like to bring their knees together here, and others like to keep their knees apart. If you need to make space for a spinal twist, please move what needs to be moved. You could keep feet and knees together, or maybe there's a request for what some people call the supine windshield wipers, for basically releasing the hips, and sometimes that sacral area, right, gets some good attention too, excuse me. And when you find yourself on one side, you might stay there a moment and lift the foot that seems like the front foot and place it on top of the other knee. And if this is not for you, you could have blocks under your knees or roll a blanket underneath. Sometimes having something to press into changes the pose just in the right way. And of course, if you don't want this kind of zigzag position, undo, bring your knees and feet together and see if that works better for you for your spinal twist. And then taking it to the other side. Again, knees and feet together if this kind of windshield wiper release is not for you. Allowing yourself to be in whichever phase is here with you right now. We might not be in the same phases, although the moon might be pointing toward turning inward a bit as she is making her way toward half moon. And for the waning half moon in the studio, we do guided meditation. So if you're around to come, tomorrow is February 2nd. All of the classes will end with guided meditation. And of course, you're welcome to be here in person or to Zoom in as it suits you. Sometimes we keep our head centered in these releases, and sometimes it feels just right to turn the head, and the neck might receive different attention. And then coming center, unwinding the legs and bringing that back center. Maybe giving your knees a hug. It could be hands behind upper legs, hands on top of low legs, or a giant hug in. And I'm just realizing I tilted the phone, so I hope you can see me down here. You could rock and roll a bit I notice when I'm holding my knees and doing some rocking, my knees like to come in. So I'm inviting them above hips, another place where alignment feels just right. And you can rest in your Shavasana or your constructive rest. I'm going to hop up and just be sure you can see the floor here. I think you can. Oh, yeah, you can. A little more of the floor. And so often we think in yoga that we have to rest on our back, right? Many of us were taught that way, but really, truly, we can rest any way it feels good. Maybe it's a little side lying rest. Maybe you want to be prone on your belly. Maybe it's a resting tree with one leg long and one knee bent. Maybe it's a resting goddess with both knees bent at this midwinter mark where so many of the celebrations that seem to have been around way before the calendar that many of us practice, the so-called Gregorian calendar. Many of the practices that seem to have come before that were so much more in tune with the moon and nature. Perhaps the divine feminine, right? Where we're noticing, what is rhythm of earth right now? And does that make more sense for our human rhythm if we can give ourselves even an inkling of time to be there? You're welcome to layer. You're welcome to prop. You're welcome to release. You're welcome to stay right where you are as long as you need. And when you feel complete, and only when you feel complete, awakening, perhaps just a bit like those snowdrops just starting to press up out of the ground, just their green tips are there. Knowing when the snow comes, we'll be protected from the icy cold then because the snow acts like a blanket. Rocking and rolling if you like. If it feels all right, you can do a little forward and back, returning to your seat as it suits you, and finding any layers that your body may need as you were still for a bit, and allowing your hands perhaps to rest open. We've been working a bit with the meditation that's said to be when all else fails and we don't know what else to do. This is the meditation. And one of the reasons I so enjoy the Kundalini meditations is because they invite us to work with sound and they invite us to move. So it gives us permission to move out of that perhaps traditional way of thinking that meditation must be still, must be quiet, and must stop our thinking. Because I venture to guess for most of us, when we're invited to stop our thinking, we think. Not always, but I do think it works that way. So thumb to index, then middle, then ring, then pinky. And then you could reverse it, pinky, traditional ring, middle, index, and then forward again, index, middle, ring, pinky, and then we start over again. So the first round of sounds is sa, ta, na, ma, then ra, ma, da, sa, and finally sa, se, so, hum. Sa, ta, na, ma, meaning I am, or truth. Ra, ma, da, sa, having to do with the sun, the moon, and the stars. And then sa, se, so hung, and so it is, or so may it be, or blessed be, or however that makes sense for you. Sa, ta, na, ma can be sung if you prefer. Ra, ma, da, sa, se, so hung. Sa, ta, na, ma, ra, ma, da, sa, se, so hung. Sa, ta, na, ma, ra, ma, da, sa, se, so hung. Whispering. Sa, ta, na, ma, ra, ma, sa, se, mentally reciting. And finally, bringing hands to heart center. Satnam, truth. May you have truth. May you be truth. May you share truth. Thank you for sharing your practice with me. Peaceful midwinter wishes to us all wherever we can remember them and share them. We're here Monday through Saturday. You're welcome to join us anytime in studio or online. Just give me a little heads up if you choose to come with us online, and we'll make it work. And until next time, see you soon, friends.